Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Chris Abbott, and I spent 15 years in youth ministry. I've had some pretty incredible opportunities. I actually had the chance to help grow a middle school ministry from 0 to 700. I had the chance to help grow a youth ministry from 0 to 500, and I had the chance to take over a youth group that was running about 65 kids and double it from 65 to 130 in only 90 days. So the crazy thing is, I just now got back into youth ministry after about a 5-year hiatus. So what I want to do in this video is break down some of the strategies we've used in the past to grow those churches, and then some of the things that we're doing now in order to reach the next generation. So let's dive into this video as we talk about how to be a good youth leader in church coming up. Hey, what's up, y'all? If we're meeting for the first time, this channel exists to help pastors and church leaders use social media and technology in order to reach new people for Jesus and ultimately grow our church. So what I like to do from time to time is talk about youth ministry because it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I spent 15 years in youth ministry, and recently I had my brother-in-law has actually taken over the youth at our church. And so out of loyalty and just because I love youth ministry, I kind of dove back in with him. And it's interesting, after being out of youth ministry for about 5 years, right? I was in it for 15 years. I was out for 5 years. Now I've been back in for about 3 weeks. It's interesting how the world has changed and how the youth have changed. And so I wanted to make this video to kind of walk you through some of the things that we've done, some of the strategies that have worked, along with some of the massive mistakes that we've made along the way, right? And then kind of where I see youth ministry going in the next couple of years based on what I've seen so far. So let's dive in. All right, so out of all my years in youth ministry, I think the single most important thing about being a good youth leader is relationship, right? At the end of the day, teenagers are actually much better at telling whether or not someone is authentic than adults are. And so one of the biggest things that you can do, right, the old maxim of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? That goes double for youth ministry. And so while we're going to be talking about some different strategies and things that you can do to reach new kids and to grow your youth group, I think ultimately everything comes down to relationships. And so you have to be able to scale those relationships, right? So let's kind of talk about some of the things that we've done in the past and then kind of what we're doing now in order to reach new teenagers. All right, so a couple of years ago, my brother-in-law actually started a JV youth ministry at our church, right? So he was actually tasked with starting a middle school ministry, right? We call it our JV ministry, but it was 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I don't know if you've ever tried to recruit youth leaders, but it's actually incredibly difficult, and it's almost impossible to try to recruit JV youth leaders, right? So you might be able to convince someone to help out in high school, but middle school is just kind of a weird, awkward age, and it's harder to get youth leaders, at least in my experience, to get youth leaders for middle school. And so one of the things that he did was he casted vision. He basically invited people into the mission before he asked them to be a youth leader. So I love the way that he would do this. He'd basically just kind of pull aside leaders, right? Instead of asking them, hey, man, we're starting up a brand new middle school ministry. Do you want to be a leader? Right? Not too many people are going to say yes to that. But instead, what he did is just, he'd pull you aside, right? Say, hey, John, man, listen, I want you to pray about something. You know, when I was in middle school, it was some of the toughest years of my life, right? It's awkward. You're trying to navigate, right? Like school and grades and girlfriends, right? Sports and all that kind of stuff. But it's crazy. When I was in middle school, it was the first time that I walked into a party and saw my friends drinking. Right? It was the first time that someone offered me drugs, right? It was the first time that my best friend started smoking weed. It was the first time that all my friends started having sex with their girlfriends, right? It was the first time I was exposed to pornography. And so here's the deal is, and I think that by the time kids make it to high school and college, it's already too late. What would happen if we could actually reach kids while they're still in middle school, right? Man, could we keep kids from, getting pregnant when they're 16? Man, could we keep them from having unwanted abortions? Could we keep them out of, getting addicted to drugs and alcohol or getting addicted to pornography if we could reach them when they were in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade? Man, listen, we're putting together a brand new middle school ministry with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Man, would you just pray about being a leader in there and kind of being a part and helping me reach this next generation before it's too late? That sales pitch right there, it works because every single person goes back and starts thinking about middle school, right? Start thinking about what happened in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And my guess is you probably had similar experience to what we just shared. So this was his tactic as he began focusing on the leaders. And as he focused on the leaders and growing his leadership team, what happened is the youth ministry naturally grew as well, right? Because like we said at the beginning of this video, it's all about relationship. Well, you can only have relationship with a certain amount of kids. In fact, there's actually a social psychology term called Dunbar's number, right? It says that we can only physically maintain about 150 relationships, right? Anything more than that and relationships start dropping off, right? It's not a Christian thing. That's actually social psychology. And so that's why so many churches and so many youth groups get stuck at about 150. It's because in order for you to break through the 200 barrier, you have to switch and you have to start investing in your leadership team, right? And then they can start managing those relationships and you can actually grow past 200. And that's exactly what happened. Is I think within about 3 years, that middle school ministry went from 0 to 700. It's a crazy thought, right? But it was because he was taking time to actually pour into the leaders, and then the leaders took time to pour into the kids, and that's why it became so scalable, right? So again, everything is about relationship. Now, there were some strategic things that we did back then, right? Like we would have a big night once a month, right? And this still works, but it's different the way that it works now, right? So what we would do back then is, we'd have big, huge giveaways, we'd have a fun night and free food, and we would just say, hey, the last Wednesday of every single month is our big night, and we would push all of our kids to invite their friends to that one thing, right? So it might be a bonfire, it might be a dodgeball tournament, it might be a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, might do indoor paintball, right? Whatever it was, we always had something fun, and then I always had a really sticky sermon, all right? Like, why do bad things happen to good people? And then we always had, free burritos or, free McChickens or free pizza or whatever, right? Now, those things still work, but again, what drives those is relationship now more than ever, right? So kids will invite their friends to that kind of stuff, but you have to make sure that you're connecting with people and you have to make sure that you're building those relationships. And so because of that, one of the things that I've found is really, really powerful now is actually these smaller gatherings where you have time to build relationship. So for example, when I first took over a youth group that was running about 65 kids and we built it up to 130, right? We were able to do that through some big nights and through kind of getting the word out. But what made that sustainable and made it continue to grow over time for the next 5 years was the fact that we started going all in on some of these smaller relationships. So for example, one of the things that I would do is I would have dude nights on a Friday night. So I would open up the gym at our church and I would just invite guys to come out from like 8 o'clock until midnight. And it was just the dudes and we would have a dude night, right? And at first it was 10 or 20 kids, then it was 30 or 40 kids, then it was 50, 60, 75 kids, and it was just a bunch of dudes, right? And so we'd play jungle pong. I'd have a movie going, right, for guys that wanted to watch a movie. We'd play, basketball tournaments. We'd play Can Jam. We played Ultimate Frisbee. We just had a blast just being dudes. And at one point, about 3/4 of the way through the night, I would have all the guys come into the middle of the basketball court and take a knee, and I would just share like a 10-minute word about what it is to be a man of God. Right? Just sharing with them about how to treat their girlfriends, right? How to treat their relationships and their parents, right? The importance of, not looking at pornography and the importance of being a man of God, spending time in the Word every single day, becoming a disciple, right? These are really, really important things, obviously. And we would just take time to kind of talk about that at these dude nights. And what would happen is they just continued to grow because one, it was kind of cool that it was exclusive, right? It was just the dudes. And two, it ended up being this thing where I took time to make sure to try to connect with every single kid that was there, right? Whether we were on a jungle pong team together or whether or not they were my partner for Can Jam or whether we were on a 3-on-3, right? Whatever it is, we just took time to build relationships with these kids. And I found that one of the best ways to do this was just to turn to a kid halfway through the night, just say, hey, John, so man, what's your story, bro? Right? And kids completely open up when you just ask them about their story. So again, this is just a way to be able to scale relationships. All right, so I've got a couple more ideas that I want to throw out, a couple of the things that we're going to talk about that we've used, right, and that we're currently using in the future of youth ministry. But I want to know from you, right, what are some of the things that you've seen effective? How has youth ministry changed over the years? What does this new generation look like? And what are some things that you found that are effective in reaching this new generation of young people? Put it in the comments below because I want to learn, I want to know about it. And if you found out something that I don't know about, man, I want to know because I think we need to flood heaven and populate the kingdom with a bunch of new teenagers. So put it in the comments below. All right, some of the other things that we did back then that still work now are things like going to school lunches, showing up to football practices, right? We'd show up to like football practice or basketball practice with a cooler full of Gatorade. I'd always call ahead first, right? Make sure it was okay with the coaches before I came out, right? But that's something that's great. We used to host a giant dinner the night before a football game, right? So if there's a high school Friday night football game, on Thursday night, we would invite the entire team over for like a big old like spaghetti dinner at the church, right? And we would just hang out, right? There was no agenda. We weren't preaching. It was just a chance to kind of meet these guys, say what's up, and just show them that we appreciated them by feeding them some dinner. Right? Again, it's all about relationship and facilitating those relationships. Now, I've made a bunch of mistakes along the way as well, right? So, in fact, I actually shot a kid in the face with a bottle rocket one time, right? This is not a joke. This is dumb. I literally thought I was going to jail and I was never going to be allowed around teenagers ever again. So we were out at camp one time and we were playing this game. I don't even know what the game was, but it was something where the kids had to like sneak around and they had to like grab different things. I don't even know what it was, right? It was all in the dark and kids wore all black and dressed in army and painted their faces and that kind of stuff. And it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. But there was literally, I had some bottle rockets out there just to scare kids. Again, I was an idiot, right? I was young. I can't believe I did this. But there were some kids, they went up and we had this outdoor sanctuary, right? It was like an outdoor like tabernacle pavilion. And so what they did in order to throw me off is they made a bunch of noise at the front of the sanctuary and then they crawled around real fast to the back and started army crawling towards the position that they had to capture the flag, right? So I wanted to freak them out, and so hearing them in the front of the sanctuary, I lit a bottle rocket and placed it on the ground and shot it into the back of the sanctuary. I thought, oh, I'll place it on the ground so it doesn't hit anybody in the eye, and I'll shoot it in the back of the sanctuary to scare them because they're in the front of the sanctuary. Nope, it just so happened that they were actually army crawling on their bellies in the back of the sanctuary, and so I hit a 16-year-old kid in the face with a bottle rocket and it exploded in his eyeball. One of the dumbest things I've ever done, right? So he was literally like legit blind in one eye for like 30 minutes. Okay, luckily it hit right below his eye. It exploded, but the flash of light, he couldn't see anything for like 30 minutes. Luckily, we had a nurse who was there, and she was able to help keep him calm and keep me calm because I might have been freaking out more than he was. She just said, nope, don't worry. His sight's going to come back. He's fine. It scared him. It was a loud noise, a loud flash, but he's going to be fine. Sure enough, he was cool. I was still allowed in youth ministry, but I'm telling you, right, if you've been in youth ministry for more than 5 minutes, you've probably done some stupid stuff too. We've all made plenty of mistakes, right? But one of the things, again, that I've learned here is the more that you spend time investing in that relationship, right, the more you're going to be forgiven for those types of things. So luckily, I had a really good relationship with that kid. I'd spent a lot of time kind of pouring into him and discipling him. So even shooting him in the face with a bottle rocket still wasn't a deal breaker, which is a pretty good thing. All right, so where do we go from here? Well, I honestly believe right now that while some of those big nights don't work as well as they used to, it still is a good evangelism idea, right? You can still have a bonfire night, you can still have a dodgeball or a 3-on-3 tournament, you can still have some of those big nights, but it doesn't attract kids the way that it used to. And so I believe going forward, it's gonna be much more about like these smaller relationship type of events. So sometimes that might be hosting something at your church, but I also think a lot of times it's just, showing up to a kid's basketball game or their wrestling match or their cheer practice or their chess tournament or whatever it is that they're interested in, right? We had a girl who hadn't started coming to our youth group yet, but her boyfriend did, and he was praying for her, and we were all praying for her as leaders. And so she was in an improv group. And so, man, one Thursday night, we showed up with like 25 youth leaders at this improv group and just cheered super loud, which they're only used to having like 10 people in the crowd anyway, right? Every time that she came on stage, we went nuts and cheered super loud. And she was so blown away that a bunch of youth leaders that had never met her actually came out to her improv practice, right? That she actually ended up coming to church. She gave her life to Jesus, and she's still living for God to this day simply because we took an interest in what she was doing. We showed that we cared about her personally and building that relationship, and we showed up at something she was involved in, right? So I think that's always going to be the way forward. But I think as youth ministry continues to evolve, these are going to be the things that are going to be way more effective. I don't think it'll be as much of the big nights. I think it'll be a lot more of this relationship-based smaller things. You take an interest in what they care about, and you're hosting small groups where kids can come over and hang out and play video games, or you can grill out, or just get a chance kind of getting to know them. But it's always going to be about relationship. It's always been about relationship. It's going to continue to be moving forward. Okay, so hopefully you found this video valuable as we're kind of talking through some of the things that are working and not working inside of youth ministry. But if you want to know a little bit more about what's working with social media and specifically how to attract new visitors to your Sunday morning services, then head on over to churchgrowthagency.com or click on the link in the description below. We've got a free video walking you through a 4-part system you can use at your church to start attracting new visitors every single Sunday.